If you have Japanese barberry growing in your yard, those thorny little shrubs, red leaves or yellow, sold everywhere as easy and indestructible, tick populations in and around them run 12 times higher than in yards without a single bush. 12 times. Not because ticks love the plant itself, but because barberry builds the exact microclimate that white-footed mice need, humid, shaded, protected from every predator, and white-footed mice are the primary host that feeds the ticks carrying Lyme disease. I dug mine out 3 summers ago. I have not found a tick on my dog since. There are 8 more plants doing the same quiet damage in yards like yours. And one of them is probably the ground cover you planted, thinking it was the sensible, low-effort choice. We will get there, and it is going to surprise you. Number 1 is Japanese barberry, and before we move on, I want you to know the removal piece, because cutting it is not enough. It comes back from the root crown every single time. Dig it out completely, roots and all, and wear real gloves, not the thin cloth kind, because those spines go straight through them. I learned that the hard way and spent 2 weeks pulling thorns out of my palm. Bag the whole plant and take it to the curb. Do not compost it. It will re-root. There is a plant that does everything barberry does to a yard, but worse, because it covers 3 times the ground, and most people consider it a solution rather than a problem. Number 2 is English ivy, dense, evergreen, and the underside of an ivy bed stays cool and moist 12 months a year. Exactly what ticks need to survive between hosts, what snakes need to shelter out of sight, and what mosquitoes need to breed in the puddles that collect inside every cupped leaf. Cut it back to the soil and immediately paint the cut ends with concentrated herbicide. Ivy seals itself off fast, and that window closes in minutes. Mulch the bare ground heavily so it cannot return before you replant. The next one is where I lose some people because they planted it on purpose and they are genuinely fond of it. But I would not be doing you any favors if I skipped it. Number 3 is Pachysandra. I grew it myself for 11 years because I thought it was the responsible shade garden choice. What I did not know is that Pachysandra forms a dense, permanently moist canopy at ground level, and ticks can survive dry summer heat underneath it that would kill them in open sunlight. Garden centers will not tell you this because they sell a lot of Pachysandra. I just will. Pull it in sections. Clear 1/3 of the bed. Let that ground breathe and dry in the sun for a full season. Then replant before pulling the next section. All at once means a summer fighting weeds and bare dirt. Now snakes are a different conversation, and the next plant is where that starts. And it may catch you off guard because you planted it to attract wildlife. Number 4 is tall ornamental grasses. Maiden grass, pampas, miscanthus. The clumps are beautiful, I know. But the interior of a full-grown ornamental grass clump stays dark, cool, and moist all season. And black rat snakes, garter snakes, and copperheads in warmer climates use those centers as regular daytime rest spots. If your ornamental grass sits within 10 feet of a doorway, a patio, or anywhere children play, move it or remove it. Cut it to the crown in late winter and the interior resets. But the problem returns every summer the moment the clump fills back in. Number 5 is vinca, periwinkle, and it does exactly what Pachysandra does, only lower to the ground and harder to remove once established. The stems root wherever they touch soil, so ticks can move through a venta bed without ever climbing into open air. Same removal strategy, sections, not all at once. Let the ground dry between pulls. If you are wondering what to put back in place of all these ground covers without handing the weeds an open invitation, that is exactly what I built the lazy garden blueprint around. Plant combinations that let light reach the soil, dry out between rains, and still fill space beautifully. A 30-day layering system, each layer with a job. The link is on screen. But there is one more plant coming up that I saved, because every time I mention it, the comments fill with the same reaction. I cannot believe something that smells that beautiful is doing this much damage. Number 6 is Oriental Bittersweet, the invasive vine, not the native one. A single vine left to run along a fence or a shrub creates a dense tangle within 2 seasons that becomes a permanent refuge for snakes and a humid highway for ticks. Pull it now, before July, before the berries ripen and birds carry the seeds everywhere. The vine pulls clean from the root when the soil is wet. In dry soil it snaps, and every snap point regrows. Now here's the one that genuinely made me sad to figure out, because I had loved it for years before I understood what it was harboring. Number 7 is Lily of the Valley. It smells like early May. I grew it along my north fence for a long time and considered it one of the small joys of the garden. But a full drift of Lily of the Valley creates the same dense, perpetually moist mat as Pachysandra. Ticks overwinter in it. Move through it in early spring before you're even spending time outside, and the leaf litter underneath stays wet all season. If you love it too much to pull it, keep a small contained patch and mow a clear, dry buffer of at least 2 feet of sunlit open soil around every edge, so ticks cannot commute in from the lawn. The next one catches people off guard because it's usually right against the house, and most people think of it as permanent. Number 8 is any large juniper, arborvitae, or privet, where the lower branches have been left to touch the ground. Snakes use the skirt of an overgrown juniper the way a dog uses a dog bed. They return to it because they know it is safe. Lift those lower branches every spring so sunlight and air reach the soil underneath, or remove the shrub if it sits against your foundation. A neighbor of mine kept finding snakes on her back steps every July. 20-year-old juniper flat against the house, skirt on the concrete. We cut the lower branches off. She has not seen one since. 3 feet of open, dry ground around any foundation planting is all it takes. Which plant on this list was the genuine surprise? The one you already had in your yard and never suspected? Drop it in the comments. Gardeners in different zones read those answers, and your real-world experience tells someone 2 climates away what to check first. Number 9 is hostas, specifically large, tightly planted hosta clusters, where the leaves overlap and the center never dries out between rains. I'm not telling you to pull your hostas. I'm telling you to divide them every 3 years so air can move through the center, and every spring before new growth starts. Pull the dead leaf debris out of the crown by hand. That debris builds into a tick nest at ankle height, and you walk through it every time you step into the shade garden. That one habit alone has changed how I feel about walking through mine. Knowing which 9 plants to look at is the beginning. Knowing what to put back in their place, in the right layers, so the ground stays open enough to dry between rains, but full enough to crowd out the weeds. That is the conversation in the Lazy Garden Blueprint. I built it because every summer I watched people pull out the problem plants and then stand in front of bare mulch with no idea what came next. A 30-day layering system built around plant combinations that let light through, dry the soil, and keep giving you something beautiful from May through frost. It cost something because putting it together took real time. The link is on screen. If you want the beauty without handing the ticks and snakes a permanent address, that is where it is. A yard full of plants is not automatically a safe yard. The ones creating dark, humid, undisturbed ground are doing the damage, and most of them are sitting in gardens right now because someone at a garden center said they were a good idea. Now you know which 9 to check before July. Go check your barberry first. See you in the next one.